Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, sorry, we couldn't ring the bell earlier because it seemed to have disappeared from our desk. So if anybody finds it, if you can just give us a ring. Supply chain, or perhaps taking a step back. I'm back moderating this session. For those of you who came late, my name's Yiakoumi. I'm the publisher of the Automotive Logistics Group. I'm not George Clooney. I get a lot of confusion about that. But, and I decided to come back to moderate this session because the last couple of sessions we went for the younger guys in Christopher Ludwig and Jacit Sethi to moderate the sessions, and they were making me look bad, so I thought I'd come back myself and this time moderate. But what did they do to me? They put on a really handsome young panel, so I still look bad whatever happens. But this session is about supply chain optimization, and it's the next step. You know, probably, you know, before it was about, you know, transportation, freight movement, and then it became logistics, which in some ways still, you know, really carried the connotations of transportation. Now it's looking more at the supply chain management and understanding that. So that's what this session is about, the end-to-end supply chain. In our poll earlier, in our survey earlier, we were talking about, you know, education and where would we like to improve the human resources, and the top answer was education of the supply chain management, more so than the drivers and more so than other areas. It was important to improve the understanding and education of supply chain management. So I'm not sure if this panel is going to help us to educate you, or whether this panel is a result of the survey and that these people need education and to learn about supply chain management. I'm not sure which way around it is. But we've got a great panel here representing different vehicle makers, I suppose, you know, in general, global vehicle makers, and even a couple of Indian-based car makers, but who are very much with global aspirations or even global activities. So it's a real chance to understand what the car makers understand, what they expect, and what role you can play in making and optimizing their supply chain. The panel includes Fiat India, Ford, Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra and Daimler. So I think we've got a real mix of different types of vehicle makers on the panel. But the first up to give us his thoughts and perspectives, I'd like to welcome to the podium Kalpesh Pathak, the VP of Corporate Supply Chain Management for Fiat India. Thank you, Kalpesh.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Louis. Very good afternoon to all of you. It's always a pleasure to be on the dais of automotive logistics. I think Louis has been hosting all of us on this annual Jamboree year after year. And this time when he gave me the topic, I thought what I should do, because at office our bosses keeps us busy in making presentation, how you will optimize this, how you will optimize this. So then I said, Louis also wants us to talk on the same subject. So I have a presentation, but after going through the day's event, I thought since I have been assigned the responsibility to set the stage for this discussion, what I'll do, I'll go extempore just based on my few thoughts which has been going on in my mind since morning. Now, I think one interesting online survey, there was a question, are we world class? And we all saw the results. And I think it is true. We all were expecting what's going to come. Now, see, what is supply chain optimization? I don't think I need to tell any one of you, because all of us are very much aware about what supply chain optimization all about. And I think one thing also we know, correct, probably after a minute, some of you will say, okay, we are not required to carry out this discussion, because it's a never-ending kind of discussion. Optimization word as such is such a thing that it's an ongoing thing. And I'm sure, like Louis, please continue this session in your all the future conference, with a wish that you can continue this conference as long as we can. Okay. Now, we all know that we represent one of the very fierce and most competitive industry, okay, both globally as well as locally. And let me tell you, if we look back at like 1980s, okay, when Indian automotive market was few thousands, till probably 2014, we all have come a long way, okay, and we have done lot of optimization, okay. I think any one of like person sitting here in this room is asked to speak about 10 minutes, everybody can count number of examples. So, we all know what optimization is all about. We also know why we need to optimize, okay, because that is how we could bring the industry from where we were till where we want to go. But one thing, I read a very interesting caption, what brought you here will not take you forward, okay, and that is why I think today's context, okay, is very much relevant. All of us know what is optimization, why we need to optimize, but still I think idea of having this discussion or debate is to make sure that we exchange some thoughts which will really help us to make sure that when we go back to our respective domains, certainly it will help our thought process. Now, see, the whole panel is divided into like 5 different themes, and what I am going to talk on the harmonization of standards for the equipments, processes and the laws, okay. Now, what is harmonization? It is very simple. I do not want to get into definition, but just thinking from a layman's perspective, harmonization is nothing but establishing common standards or processes across the industry, okay. Now, we all have been talking in the previous session also since morning about GST, okay. What is GST? GST is nothing but harmonization of the tax system, okay, because we have multiple states, then federal structure over those states. So, what government is trying to do is harmonization, and I think all of us sitting here agree that yes, once the GST gets into place, okay, it will really help us optimize the supply chain. Is it correct? So, I think lot of things. I will give you one more example. The harmonization system code for the commodities or the import export transactions which we do. Now, suppose assume that if the harmonization of the codification was not there for the international transaction in import and export, okay, would we have been able to grow to the stage, the global trade to the level where we are today? No. So, one thing we all know since morning we have seen, Amit from IHS showed that industry in next 5 to 6 years is going to grow 3 to 4 folds. Now, if it is going to grow 3 to 4 folds, certainly it is going to add lot of complexity in our domains, okay. And where harmonization will play a role is, as we know that we are going to get complex, can we figure out some avenues or areas by which we can make sure that it will help us deliver the solutions or the products to our customers in a timely manner, in a reliable manner and in a effective cost manner, okay. Now, let me just give you an example. I think there are a number of examples, but the company which I represent, it is a joint venture 50-50 between Fiat and Tata Motors, okay. Now, that model has worked really fantastic, and I will quote few of my examples how it worked. We have 2 customers, Fiat and Tata. We manufacture cars for both Fiat as well as Tata. Now, we know that our industry is volatile, okay. Now, see, in such a volatile situation, if we have to generate the efficiencies or use the plant optimally, okay, I have seen in my experience this business model has been working perfectly fine. Now, while we do this, as a part of process, what we have done, see, Tata had their own standards for producing the vehicle, they had their own processes for the vehicle production, but when this joint venture took place, we had no other choice but to look at like how can we commonize, because both the customers' cars are being produced on the same assembly line. So, like equipments have to be commonized. Now, we went through lot of challenges, but finally we could figure out together a solution. Now, today, as we know, last 2.5 years, the industry has been almost flat or a little bit negatively growing. But from a plant perspective, it has given us very good strength in the sense that, yes, we are not operating at the 100% capacity, but we have been operating at a much better, if we compare with the industry, with a much better optimal possibility. So this is what harmonization of the process is, because at our end, when we are producing two customers' cars, we have to harmonize. We have to harmonize the equipments. Like fuel filling equipments itself were quite different. The torque system was completely different. But finally, when we went through, we harmonized, and it really gave us a lot of benefits. So, sorry. Another example, I think the auto industry, we all know, like if I want to quote on a global basis, like we all know the QS 9000 system, which was evolved in early 90s. It was finally rolled out in 94, but the whole dilemma which was going on in the US market between big threes, because all of them were having a different processes, different standards, and suppliers were common. So what used to happen? The supplier XYZ is developing a part for GM, Ford and Chrysler, okay, and that was turning out to be very, very costly affair, time consuming affair. So all of them decided, and finally they harmonized the standards, and we know now that's a globally established process, okay. I'll give you another simple example. Like today we know how our outbound industry works. There are a number of transporters, but each transporter is working with almost 3 to 4 OEMs. Now, a very, very basic thing, when a transporter vehicle goes to the OEM for loading or unloading, there are standards or procedures very well defined. Now, if he goes to Ford, Ford has a standard. If he goes to Fiat, Fiat has a standard. If he goes to Tata, he has a standard. Now, imagine a level of a person. We keep talking about the skill gap in the industry. A poor driver and the cleaner. You expect him to remember 4 different processes or standards, what he needs to do or what he should not do. I think this is a question which I want to throw in front of group. With what kind of people we are dealing with and where we need to attack. See, there are big things we keep talking about, and we are trying to act upon that. But let's try to go up to the simplest or the lowest level and think in perspective that who are the people who are part of this whole supply chain. As the context says, that it's an end-to-end supply chain. So we have to start from the bottom of the pyramid. Like who are the people who are part and function of this supply chain. Let me give you one more example. Like same transporter, like say for example TCI, they deal with number of OEMs. Now when their person goes for collection or delivery, okay, now the number of barcode standards are different for each OEM. Why can't we harmonize at least as a country? Now when I say that harmonize, no one should construe it as a standardization. No, we are not saying that okay, each and every company should follow the standard labels. No, it should be like harmonized in such a way that if a poor chap who goes for collection, correct, it should be very easy for him to understand. So this is what is harmonized all about. Now how we'll do it, when we'll do it, I don't think we will have answers to all those questions right now. What I'm trying to do with this few thoughts is that at least we need to start thinking in our brain that where we need to attack, how we need to attack, who all are the common or like-minded parties, who are the stakeholders, how we can bring them into this initiative and go forward. Now, we all have been talking about that India's logistic cost is very high, okay, and I think someone also mentioned, I think it was Vinny, that we are at the stage that now few companies out of India are going to export parts to China. Now, see, the way I started thinking since then is, correct, that see, one side we say that our logistic cost is very high, okay, and in spite of that, if we are competitive, and it is very prevalent that Indian OEMs have been exporting to European markets, to Latin American markets, that means in spite of spending such a huge logistic cost, okay, we are able to supply them the products competitively in the marketplace. So if we really work on this optimization, okay, I think it is really going to help all of us to make sure, because today each one of us sitting here, we know how our balance sheet looks like, correct? Now, I am not saying that optimization or harmonization, that means the cost reduction. No, first is quality. Next in the order comes delivery, timely delivery. Then reliability, means every time we do the transaction, we need to do it on a repetitive basis in a same defined manner. And last comes the cost. But yes, for our long-term sustenance, cost is also very important. So I think it is going to help all of us, whether it's OEM, whether it's tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, or whether it's a service providers. So I think it's a high time, there is a need, because the way we are going to grow, definitely we have to start thinking differently. We have been thinking, and we all deserve credit for that. But as I said, what brought us here will not take us forward. Keeping that in mind, I will leave with this thought, and probably we'll have some more discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalpesh. A very good start. Looking at supply chain as harmonization is a great point to start. Working together to find the optimal supply chains. The issues that have to be looked at in supply chain are not issues that can be solved by one person or one company. I think it is by people working together. Next up, I'd like to welcome to the podium Amlan Bose, the Vice President of Material Flow Engineering, Logistics Network and Exports Operations from Ford Asia Pacific and Africa. Thank you, Amlan.
Good evening. Just excuse me my throat. Louis, you should not be serving ice cream in the lunch. And even if you serve, you should restrict the number of servings. Anyway, nice to be back again, and thanks once again, Louis, to your wonderful team and such a wonderful job that you're doing flawlessly year over year. The subject that is I'll be talking about very briefly, I know it's just 10 minutes, I got about 8 or 9 slides, is an end-to-end supply chain, and I'll be touching upon what we're doing in the fields of inbound logistics, outbound logistics, and also from a multimodal vision where we stand and how do we see the future turning up there. Now, I was talking to Nimish, and I asked when we were talking about framing the subject, I said, just check with Louis if any specific message he would like me to deliver or Ford to deliver in this forum. And Louis sent the message saying that I would like to see how the senior management of Ford, how much of importance they give to supply chain or logistics. So how about bringing our president and managing director to today's morning session? So that was very well received, and thanks to Nigel that he agreed readily. Now this slide shows, now in a typical life cycle of a program, when we launch, the first step at the bottom, as you can see, it says program start. So as we have started working with a model for launching, generally it's almost a 3.5 year journey. I have shown 2 to 3 year. Generally it's a 3 year plus journey. Right at that stage, going through almost about 8 or 9 or 10 gateways, midway it shows program approval, where the program gets approved by the senior leadership, and then it goes all the way to job 1 or the launch of the program. And then finally, after job 1 plus 90 days, after 3 months of launching, we call it a final submission or a final status review, FSR, when we close that particular program from the financial costing number point of view. All that gateway review, and it's a very, very extensive and intense process. And on the left-hand side, what we are showing is the level of scrutiny and review and approval process it goes to, starting with the general manager logistics, which is one of my team members, and then it goes through me, it goes through my director logistics sitting in Shanghai, then it goes to the global materials planning and logistics director Detroit, then it goes to the vice president of manufacturing, and who in turn reports to CEO. Our deck, which we prepare with all the logistics details and the strategies and the initiatives that we're taking, the cost, the risks and opportunities, everything goes through this cycle for so many gateways that you're seeing. So that's the kind of importance in Ford we attach to logistics, and so as for all other functions, be it engineering, be it purchasing or finance or the HR. So that's something which I wanted to bring as a response to Louis' request of how we do it in Ford. Now, to show, before I proceed further, I would like to tell the Ford India story. Now, most of you know we started with Icon launch in 1999, and for a long time we have been a small volume player. Figo in 2010 kind of changed that, and we started talking about 100,000 plus volume for the first time. And then, of course, EcoSport in 2013 has changed it to a big extent. We have started exporting. So our volume ramp up, you can see over the last 2 to 3 years, and then the volume scenario from 2015 to 19 is even more steeper, and we're very happy about it, both on the domestic side as well as the export side. The small inlet box that you see is the freight budget, which is both the inbound freight and the outbound finished vehicle freight. So as a logistician, that's the budget that I'm responsible for, and that's how it is ramping up. So with this context, with that in the background, my subsequent slides I'll be talking about. Now, on the inbound side, right from the inception in 1999 when we launched Icon, we have been using a 3PL-driven logistics model. That's the only way we know of handling logistics. We never wanted to depend upon logistics by the suppliers, because we always thought that logistics is best handled by the experts who are in that field. So we chose the 3PL model way back in 1999, when I don't think many of the OEMs in India at that time would have thought of migrating into 3PL. But that's the only language we knew, and that's the only way we could have done logistics in India. So it's almost over a decade that we have been experiencing the 3PL model, and we have been working with only one 3PL service provider. And the way the 3PL model works, as you can see on the small box on the left-hand side, the 3PL, who is also to some extent a carrier, because he owns some of the assets, if not all the assets, and then he leases most of the assets from the market, the fleet or the trucks and the trailers, and reports into Ford's logistics team. Under the X-Works terms that we have with all the suppliers, which predominantly an X-Works, that is, we collected through a milk run process. And there are a few suppliers who are within the 0 to 50 kilometer radius, predominantly the supply park. They are on a just-in-time sequenced delivery, commodities like IP or a seat and all, which you just deliver on just-in-time. So 90-95% of our commodities or parts have been on an X-Works 3PL delivered milk run basis. But what we have experienced over the time is some of the gap areas which made us to think beyond the 3PL model, particularly as we are now inching towards a much higher growth over the next 5 years. And that's where we came up. And the gap areas, if I have to highlight, as shown by some of the red fonts there, is the whole system is very static in nature. As your production is changing dynamically on a daily basis or weekly basis, somehow the 3PL model is failing to keep up with that change. Whatever is their pickup or trucking plan or pickup frequencies or truck size or dimension that they deploy tend to stay static over a period of a month, or even sometimes even a quarter, or sometimes even for 6 months it doesn't change. So we realize that it's a very static, and I think that's where most of the logistics efficiency or waste were happening. Sorry. Then the whole model by its very nature lacked scalability, and we were clearly looking at Sanand plant with a much bigger volume. And we also have seen a kind of an inertia over a period of time, and also perhaps a lack of motivation or desire to go after the waste elimination, perhaps because of the shared interest of a 3PL and the fleet that they own or that he owns. So we clearly wanted to go out of this model and try something else. The animation just show how the milk run happens at various consolidation hubs, and it comes to the Chennai plant. Now, in the next 4 or 5 years that we're looking at, and for which this plan is about, we are clearly moving from a 3PL-led logistics model into an LLP-driven logistics model. And clearly, we now have a 2-plant scenario, that is Chennai and Sanand. What are the key highlights of this LLP model is that LLP, which is an independent third-party entity, completely neutral, have nothing to do with any assets, they don't own any assets and all, works with carriers underneath them, and reports into Ford. and they look at things with a very fresh and a neutral eye, and their deliverables are key deliverables are network design or route planning, and the whole thing is very, very dynamic in nature. And I'll give you some examples of that in the subsequent slides. They have been able to drive very good synergy between as we are moving from a single plant scenario to a two plant scenario. The whole thing is freight cost and optimization and service sector driven. There is a good enough focus on the standardization of the equipments, and of course the whole thing is very KPI driven. And then the total logistics cost is taken into consideration, not just the freight cost, but the total logistics cost that is taken. And one of the most important thing is the last line is that we have LLP working with us way in advance, right from the gateway 1 or the program start gateway that I showed in my first slide. They are penetrated into my logistics team, and they are working with me. They have full access to my freight budgets and all, and they are helping me to do forward model planning and forward model costing for my future launches. So to that extent, they have penetrated my logistics organization. They sit with us in the same office, and there is no difference apart from perhaps the uniform that they wear of their brand or of their organization. Under the LLP model, there are stakeholders. So there are 3 stakeholders. One is the LLP, one is of course Ford, and then the carriers below the LLP. And the carriers, of course, have their key tasks are cut out, flawless execution of the logistics that the LLP is designing dynamically on a daily or a weekly basis, managing professionally the consolidation centers, and ensuring a very strict window time adherence. And then overall, an area where we generally tend to ignore is the human aspect of logistics, a trained driver and safety, and the driver community for which we care about and cared for driver community. So that's something which the carriers are part of this whole 3-tier structure. The bumper sticker, as it shows, so it's an LLP, carrier, and Ford. There are 3 major stakeholders, and we all are working together to create logistics excellence in this project. Just a quick example of what do I mean by dynamic planning. Now, take for example the Northern Consolidation Hub in Delhi, as shown in the map. The first box or the middle box shows the top 3 green dots that you can see. On a particular given day, depending upon the production schedule for that day, or the variant or the mix that we are producing, or the production nature of, say, more domestic or less exports, or more of export vehicles, less of domestic, we might decide, or LLP might decide, to do a quick milk run between those 3 dotted supplies and bring it by a long haul truck right into the production, into the Chennai or the Sanand plant. And then also bring export parts, which we export to China and other Ford affiliates, and deliver it into the export trading company, which is also 3 kilometers away from the Chennai plant. In the next week, depending upon the changing scenario, they might take a decision that, no, don't do those milk run between those 3. Do a direct truck right from one of the suppliers, because that particular variant or mix perhaps would have sufficient volume to fill a 32-feet truck, and then it straight goes. So like that, and this is just one small example, and there are a variety of such examples where the LLP is looking into it, working with their solid IT tool. And the LLP that we have selected are also the LLP for whole of Ford North America and Ford of South America. So we are also getting a good synergy and standardized way of working across Ford models. My time is up. I'll try to quickly move on. So what has happened ever since we have moved into this LLP model is that we have seen steady decline in the overall freight cost or the logistics cost, and those are some of the bullet points which is driving, be it network route optimization, or driving the logistics cost through better synergy between the 2 plants, which otherwise left to us perhaps we would not have been able to do, because we simply don't have that kind of a subject matter knowledge which the LLP or the carriers have. And then fleet standardization, pack density improvements, and then overall freight efficiency through multi-carrier deployment. That is another thing which we have realized, that when under 3PL it was just one carrier, but under the LLP model it allows us to have multiple carriers, and we have been able to pick up carriers who are strong on a particular route, particular segment, and another set of carriers on other routes, and that itself has further eliminated waste and has been able to drive the freight cost down. All these things, as I've written, the heart of it, of LLP success, is the spirit of partnership between all the 3 stakeholders. Quickly moving on to finished vehicle. Now, again, for last almost more than a decade, or frankly speaking, till 2013, we have been 100% road. We never had the experience of doing NMG, even though other OEMs have done it in a limited way. What we have now done is that, of course, those of you who have attended Umesh and APL Vasco's presentation, we are one of the privileged few to have used that services. I think about 6 trains have already moved, and all the trains have gone with the full capacity of 278. So I think fabulous job done by APL Vasco. So we have started Chennai to Delhi service. We are serving almost about 14 dealers in North India, as shown by the yellow arrows there. The next in line is Chennai to Northeast, depending upon the further train deployment plan that APL Vasco has. And similarly, the same thing will start from Sanand to Northeast and Sanand to Chennai as well. Currently, we are following a frequency of 1 rake per day. Things are going great. We don't have a single damage issues. And what we like the most is the wonderful partnership and collaborative spirit that we see between Hyundai, Ford, and Nissan, and with APL Vasco coordinating the whole thing. All of us keeping our cars in the same yard, and it's just going seamlessly. I think this is one of the great examples that that we should celebrate. And again, thanks to Louis, because I remember in 2010 or 2011, while I was addressing the Chennai seminar at that time, Umesh met me in the lunch and said, "Hey, Amlan, I have some rail idea. Can I come and talk to you?" And I said, "Come, and there's no harm in talking rail," thinking that will never happen. And today is the day that we are back in the seminar and we are talking about celebrating it. So in a way, Louis, you are changing Indian logistics industry. Thanks to you. So further opportunities now, again, having tested success, having tested blood, as we say, we want to go all out for it. So APL Vasco is trying for movement of the parts by the same wagons. Excuse me. We also have substantial captive volume of movement of engines and transmission between the Chennai and the engine plant. So we would be looking into opportunities to move those captive volumes in containerized form between the 2 plants. And now the message, which I'm not sure whether we have Rajendra Singh ji from Janta Transport, we have always seen a concern from the road transport industry that, are you taking our share and giving to someone else? Are you clawing our volumes? Is it happening at the cost of us? But that's not the case. The message which this chart gives is that as we are ramping up with our volume, we are taking a small portion of it and doing through rail, and both of us, both of you win, and we also as a OEM enjoy. So again, the message is it's a win-win relationship, and the spirit of stakeholder partnership is again at the heart of this success. Multimodal logistics vision, a bit of future visions which we have not yet realized. Ford India is the only OEM to be present in both the coastal cities of Tamil Nadu, Chennai port, near Chennai and Ennur port, and Sanand near the Pipavav or Mundra port. So we feel very tempted to do something about coastal shipping, and we are very keen to start that, and we are working with these various service providers. Gur Kohli is really pushing the bar on that, and we wish him all the success, and we really want to succeed just like we did in case of railway, and of course the various other railway opportunities that I have already discussed about. So this is how the Ford India's multimodal logistics map should look like in future, and we are very, very hopeful with the new government and the new optimism in the air. We should be able to see that happening. This is my last slide now. The logistics being, this is the logistics seminar, the logistics cost, logistic partnership, the logistics process systems, IT tools is in the center heart of our discussions. But the key enablers or how we attack that, or how we control that, how we measure that, is through the various things which you have mentioned there. And of course, we spoke about the logistics being the focal point in Ford Motor Company, and the spirit of partnership between the various stakeholders, and all of you are stakeholders in one way or the other. And the last yellow box, if you see, is the seamless LLP engagement in forward model logistics planning and costing. I think that we have allowed them to come and penetrate our system and be a part of us and start advising us on how our future model costing should look like. So that also a bit of the, because I have heard a lot of discussions around the trust issue between the OEM and the service provider. So I think we have been able to break that barrier, and it's worked fabulously. Again, the message here is our goal is not to claw a freight cost from the service providers, or go after small wins. Our goal is actually that at the end of the day, the logistics must win. At the end of the day, the logistics industry must grow and mature. So I just leave this with slide. This is in early 1900s. Henry Ford came out with this advertisement where the man who himself was a greater than life, had a greater than life vision of opening the highway to all the mankind. So at a time when only a few could have driven car, at that time that man saw the vision of one day the entire mankind will be driving cars. Today we had the session in the morning where we saw in India we have a penetration rate of only 24 out of 1,000, but we are heading towards a much larger population. So I think it's apt that 100 years from now we're discussing this, and we're optimistic that we'll be doing that. So Ford is all about going further and breaking the boundary. We are in Ford a crazy lot of passionate logisticians, crazy logisticians, and I welcome all of you. Any one of you who is crazy, please come work with us. Tell us where we are going wrong. Tell us how we can improve. Tell us how we can eliminate the logistics waste, and you will find a very good partner in us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, thank you very much, Amlan. Very interesting presentation again, covering many areas of supply chain management. I suppose that the three that stood out for me amongst the many things that will enable a true supply chain management was senior management buy-in, how important that is to get their support. Multimodal, because any real supply chain solution is going to have to be multimodal, and collaboration. Three very important factors amongst the many that you mentioned in your presentation. So thank you very much for that, Amlan. And next up, to get a view from Maruti Suzuki, I'd like to welcome to the podium Shailendra Singh, the General Manager of Planning and Supply Chain. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Shailendra Singh, General Manager Planning and Logistics from Maruti Suzuki. Just to dramatize and share a scenario that each one of us would have faced in our career. You enter a cinema hall, first scene. A logistics cell, people biting nails, and then one person coming running in. Typhoon in Japan, our containers would be delayed. And there is sweat on the forehead. Cut. Scene 2. Again a logistics cell. There are 5 people sitting in. One person come running in and shouts. Production volume is changing, and we are facing a major issue of variant mapping. Our warehouse cannot handle that. And our stock in transit cannot be handled by the third-party logistics. What to do? Again, sweat on forehead. In my view, if we are able to handle that sweat on the forehead, we have reached the optimization. So what can be done to achieve that level of optimization? What we have done to achieve that level of optimization? I will just share some examples from our company, how we have gone about it, how we have achieved that level of optimization, and what can be done. Just as a brief, we are a 14 brand company producing around 1.3 million units cars every year. That is around 5,000 vehicles. With around 165 variants, around 3,000 parts per vehicle, you can see the magnanimity, the level of scale that we need to handle. So how to handle that and achieving that level of optimization? Is this possible? Can this be done? So, So just, if I go back to the business school days, each one of us would have, studied that what is the main focus, main goal of an organization? Definitely to maximize the shareholders' wealth. But how that can be done? Can that be done just by optimization? Just by achieving a level of productivity? Just by increasing the efficiency? No, it cannot be done. So can optimization be connected to the end product only? Can we have the right product to achieve that level of optimization, that level of efficiency, that level of profitability? No, that is not possible. So we need to look at the whole value chain. And if you look at the whole value chain, you will find that individual sections with their own level of optimization efficiencies combined together would not achieve more than 90% achievement or efficiency. So finally, if you combine all together at various scales, various levels, which starts from the shop floor, moves to the tier 2, tier 1, OEM, and then customer, finally, customer is not getting more than 90%. So what to do? So I will just share what we have done. Some examples, some thought process where we have moved forward. So from Maruti's point of view, there has been a 3-point strategy for logistics value chain. And we start from the individual component, which is the heart, and which is bound by a packaging, which is something like, our body. and then how we move that. So component inside the packaging and movement of that, all three together through the whole value chain would help us achieve a level of optimization. But how that can be done? Let us start with a small example of sustainability in packaging. If you look at the concept of packaging, a shop floor, a normal shop floor, if you see the total space utilization, we have done some significant studies in this area, and we find that not more than 60% of shop floor space or volume is actually being utilized. Rest is air. Look at a truck, again 60%. Look at a packaging, not more than 60%. All combined together, if you happen to look at it, we will find that almost 75% of logistics payments is for movement of air. So we are actually moving air from one place to another, and we are paying for air. And we are talking about optimization. What level of optimization are we talking about? We are talking optimization to reduce this air. So this is food for thought. What needs to be done? Can something be done about it? Really? In actual, on the shop floor, in the trucks, during the movement? And answer is yes, it can be done. Let us see a small example. Let us go at the basic level of bins, individual storages. We started a movement for packaging density improvement, and by doing this, individual packing density improvement has given us almost 21,000 trip reduction by host of ideas which have been collected through our team. So what I did was we started a campaign, and all my people, they would sit along, brainstorm, find out some ideas, and then we will take it as a mission across the year to implement those ideas. And this is the result. 56 tons of emissions have been reduced through this campaign. Some examples, increasing from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 1 to many, but small ideas from the shop floor. Then we move on to the innovation part. Stillages. Somebody was talking about the standardization. So we have gone with a concept by which just by 8 type of design innovations, 8 type of trolleys, all different segments, types, variants of components can be incorporated into these type of stillages. All standardized. So model change, variant change, any other change would not require us to change our trolleys, our packaging every time when it is required to be done. Only 8 type. So almost 80 to 90% of our components can be fitted into these type of stillages. A major change in the way we are thinking. But then can this be taken on to the movement stage also? Yes, it is possible. So we went to the level of truck fill rate, connected with our Nagare, connected with our Kanban systems. And is it possible to connect all this together to achieve the level of optimization we are talking about? And we found out that on an average, 82% fill rate was being achieved at Europe, and we are also going into that direction. A significant level of improvement has happened in this area, and there are certain special teams which are working with me to specially focus only on the truck fill rate. And last year itself, almost 50,000 truck rounds have been reduced by this activity, which starts from how we are packing our trucks, and also how we are utilizing by the double stacking and other methods. But then there are concepts related to the in-plant logistics also. One of the major issue in in-plant logistics is how we are going to conquer the human limitation. If you look at a normal automobile shop floor, a normal human of a height of around 5.5 feet or 6 feet can feed only up to the level of 5 feet. Beyond that, it is not possible for a normal human to feed, to handle the components or weight. So what we have done is to incorporate basic level of engineering, where the combination of pulleys, combination of basic mechanics has been done to ensure that we are able to reduce manual handling or material handling by almost 30%. And we have implemented it all through our shop floors, all through in our inbound logistics. And therefore, we are able to have faster truck turnaround of our trucks within our plant, intra-plant, intra-plant, and also to ensure that we are able to rotate our material faster. We introduced a concept of zero energy transfer. Therefore, in all our mechanization, we ensured that there would not be any use of any cylinders, any pneumatic devices, any electrical devices, any electricity into this. A lot of innovation has happened in this area. I would be glad to share, for example, one of the innovations here, which almost 9 patents have been filed last year in this area, where energy-free systems had been incorporated in the shop floor from inbound and on the in-plant logistics. This is an example of telescopic racks and some examples where ergonomics has been improved. By doing this, not only the in-plant logistics have been improved, we have been able to improve our efficiency in terms of the amount of people that are required to handle or take care of our warehouses. If you look at the warehouse handling, we found out that almost 20% of the manpower which is stationed in our warehouses would not be really contributing in any value addition work. And it is possible to reduce them just by going with small examples like this, and by focusing on reducing the human effort. This is one small example. I happened to deliver a session at Cambridge, and we all know about the London Eye, and it has a big wheel, and ideas coming up from anywhere across the world. Can this be implemented on the shop floor? And we implemented a concept of London Eye to handle the reverse logistics, that is for handling on an average in an automobile shop floor. Almost 25,000 bins are handled every day, and it requires a big resource, number of people to handle that. And we incorporated this small concept of London Eye, by which the bins can be fed directly to the trucks standing around 500 meters or even a kilometer away, by using a methodology where the things is going up through the London Eye concept, a wheel type of concept, again energy free, and it reaches the truck directly without any intervention of human. And then a lot of energy free mechanism has been developed, by which we are able to handle our in-plant logistics in a fantastic way. And another example, vending machine, energy free vending machine. We all enjoy our Coke or drinks from the vending machine. You put coin and you get a drink out, and we have implemented a different concept of handling the material with different, these are various versions of vending machine that we implemented on our shop floor, by which we are able to handle high value items which require a different level of handling, and an individual item can come to the concerned operator at the required time, and there would not be any theft, and without energy. This vending machine is without any energy, no electricity. And then definitely this needs to be connected with overall logistics. So if you look at the overall logistics, we definitely want to work upon this area, which other speakers have already pointed out. So many of you are from the third party logistics supplier, and in the time to come, definitely there was a time when we used to demand from you that you need to deliver this and you need to handle this, and we will sit and watch. But that will not help achieve the optimization that we are talking about, that sweat on the forehead. We will still have the sweat on the forehead. Therefore, we need to collaborate with you. We need to collaborate with the third-party logistics suppliers, the providers, so that we can work together for improvement, which will actually achieve on ground the level of efficiencies that we are talking about. Practical improvements. We can talk about many things, but real practical improvements can come only through our holding hands with each other. And therefore, what we have been working upon is third-party 3PL logistics improvements, and my team is sitting here. They have been doing fantastic job in implementation of milk runs, and it has given excellent results also. Look at the truck fill rate, improved from 40% to 60%, time defaults reduced significantly. So all achieved by the tremendous effort from these people. And taking forward, we are going ahead with a bigger role for the third party logistics, where infrastructure and use of GPS, various other things are being tried. I will just share an example. Our multimodal logistics concept is being developed, by which when we are moving our coils from port to our plant, on the reverse side we are able to send our cars through the same containers. So we are able to optimize both ways, and such type of optimization has given us excellent results. two-way utilization of assets have been a major focus area for any logistics expert or user, and this has been a major focus area for us also. But again, there has been a major change in terms of multimodal logistics. If you look at, other OEMs are also working upon railways, but we are the only company in India to have a AFTO license, and we have already moved through NMG as well as fixed deck and flexi deck rakes, almost 6,000 vehicles this year itself, and we have been successfully operating between Gurgaon and Bangalore, and then Gurgaon and Nagpur, and we are going ahead in various other areas also this year. And the logistics team is sitting here. We expect that almost we'll be able to cover 4 or 5 more areas this year. So probably we'll be able to cover the whole of India with these type of concepts. So in sum, what I would like to point out is that through the third-party logistics supplier or the people who are here in the room, the achievement of optimization will be achieved through holding hands with each other, through collaboration. And rest assured, when you extend hand, we are not going to stay behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shailendra, for your, again, another great presentation there. Particularly interesting was the simple solutions, about looking outside the box and finding simple solutions. Sweat on the forehead, something that comes to mind for me because I seem to have a bigger forehead than most of you. But Amlan said earlier about being crazy to work in automotive logistics, and the thing that really stood out for me, I like your scene setting at the beginning, and it came to mind that what about the Bollywood movie Automotive Logistics? How it kind of starts off with the attraction, so it's kind of the LSP and the OEM, the love story, let's partner together. Then the fights, reduce your price, no, you pay me more. And then the happy ending, the holding hands. I haven't quite worked that bit out in automotive logistics yet, but I like the kind of, we're getting that far and I haven't worked out the music. But obviously Salman Khan would be the right person to play me in the movie. So okay. But I think we're on the way there, so I can see, look out for that. I don't know what will come first, automotive logistics, the movie, or GST, but we're both moving in the right direction. And next up, the next presentation from Mahindra & Mahindra International Operations. I'd like to welcome to the podium Sudhir Jaiswal, the Vice President of Commercial and Business Planning. Thank you, Sudhir.
Good afternoon. Is it audible? Yes. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to all of you, ladies and gentlemen and guests and industry leaders. I am relatively new in this function. It's a disclaimer. But I'm very passionate about this function, logistics as such, and very well connected to that. And my presentation will go along with that. A couple of points on my side. I work in international operations of Mahindra & Mahindra, responsible for export operations for automobile and tractors. A. B is that for me, the supply chain is export logistics. So bear with me, I will talk about export logistics. Start with X factory to the distributor whom we supply the vehicles and tractors. Another one is that in my presentation, I will talk less about the concepts. I speak of Louis not to educate anyone here because you're more educated than anybody else here. It's all about implementation, because me and my team here in our department, in a function, we believe that logistics is nothing but flawless execution. Started with this slide. When I was transferred, I worked in a project engineering department to logistics function, and during my induction period, my colleague was telling me what all we do. And at the end of the day, I asked him, how you summarize this? He says, this is our workplace. To get the sweat you talked about, that's what we do every day. And you are welcome to global logistics function. It's nothing but complexity and challenges. That's how we define it. So I was wondering what to do, but actually I had a sweat in my forehead. Sorry. Then I asked them, what do you mean the complexity? Whoa. It's gone. They said complexity means, this is what we do. We deal with so many external agencies. You name them, shipping companies, CHAs, all of them, internal stakeholders. There are banking terms, there are INCO terms, there are regulatory issues, there are different modes of shipment. More so, we have so many factories, so many spare warehouses, and we export 25 plus countries. Don't you think it's a complex? I said, yes, yeah, it is very complex. Then I asked, what are the challenges? Don't you know challenges? Challenges are like the containers not coming from China. What does it mean? China is taking all the good containers, you get all the bad containers in India. Yeah, there's one challenge. Yeah, I understand. South Africa currency fluctuates, so they don't get order. Brazil, we have a complex tax and other issues, fiscal issues. Somewhere there is no forecasting coming in. The freight rates ever changing on month-to-month basis. Yeah, it's a challenge, yeah, challenge. Then I asked them, do you see any risk? Yeah, there's a lot of risk. So I asked them, what is the big risk? This is to my colleague and team member in my function. They said, this is the biggest risk we have. Yeah, I understand. Then what else? We don't know until you know it. Black Swan event, coup in Mali, vessel loaded with the containers, but the distributor saying, I can't accept it because we have coup in the country. What to do? You understand, yeah. And interdependencies. There's so much interdependence and network collaboration we talked about. We can all fall apart together. I try to sense it, what they're talking about, but we are doing very well. You know that? This is the way we work, but we are shipping vehicles, containers, tractors. We are doing business, don't you think so? We are growing. Yes, we are growing. But this is all about logistics to get the sweat you talked about. This was it. So after that, sometime later, my boss called me to get a sense, Sudhir, how you're settling in. You want to talk to me, how you're settling, Sudhir. And therefore, I present to him this slide which one of our Harvard professor has given us in our strategy course. So I try to replicate the slide, saying that my world has changed since '89 when I started. It was rational, linear, predictable, simple, and very stable. That's how I worked from my college. Operations, management, linear programming, operational research. Now, it is volatile, uncertain, complex, chaotic, ambiguous. My boss says, I think your workplace is changed. Yeah. Everybody's workplace is changed. He says, welcome to the VUCA world. The rush and the push, don't think you have to manage it. Then he asked me, I agree with you, this is what the world is. Today you're in VUCA world, is an acronym well known to everyone. Tell me what is the implication of all this. Rather than sympathizing with me, he asked me, what is the implication for all this to all the leaders and the people responsible for leading the changes? So rather than answering my question, he put back a question on me, how you want to handle it. And that's the case. And also give it a stamp like this, change is going to happen. It's your choice whether you take the progress or not. So it's a clear notice to me, a clear message to me, take it as it is, improve it. The context, are you future ready? Because my team said we're doing the job. But as a Mahindra & Mahindra, just to give perspective, we have stated aspiration to be a top 50 globally admired brand in some years ahead. And how logistics as a function contribute to that? Because we have 3 pillars to support it: quality, delivery, and cost together. And a fanatic discipline and huge focus on a customer centricity to convert logistics as center of excellence or to create center of excellence in logistics function. Can you do it? This is the question mark I put to my team member. I took them off-site that we want a team of people who are passionate to deliver, to perform, and take pride in what they're doing it. Can you do it? And it was an off-site, and they said, yes, we can do it. This is good slide to see, but what to do? As any MBA and engineer, this says, just let's do benchmarking, right? So, and benchmarking, as you know, could be done for any variables, n of variables, for n number of peers and industry best thought leaders. What to do? I said, can you do benchmark in a simple way? Primarily to get a sense where we are, not to achieve that benchmark as such, get a sense, are we a leader? Are we a laggard? Or whatever we are on some 4 simple parameters. Schedule adherence, which customer values it. Total delivered cost, end-to-end cost. Can we have end-to-end visibility and PDI? These 4 simple things I talked about with the senior leadership team of the logistics team, which I have a small logistics team in my department in functions, in exports. These 4 parameters can we benchmark and see where we are. Again, not to implement to get a target like this. First, get a sense where we are on all this. And also benchmarking not on a silo and a standalone basis. Benchmarking of entire gamut of things together. Logistic planning, ocean freight, documentation, along with network collaboration. Because it has to work with the partners. We can't work in isolation. I want this level of parameter, and we don't care about the partners. It has to be. So end-to-end thing has to be seen even in benchmarking. We did a benchmarking with internal resources to get a sense where we are. And I would not like to talk about where we are, but I will talk about what action we have taken. We achieved a couple of things. We got a focus area here, where we want to work. It is very simple again, because it has to be done now ground up. Once you do the benchmarking, now we have to work ground up on all these activities to achieve certain targets, self-driven targets, to again look at those requirements to create center of excellence in logistics function. End-to-end cost. When again I said end-to-end cost for me, export is X factory till my customer or distributor gets the vehicle, which includes my working capital, storage cost, packing cost, inland cost, everything. The duties, taxes, everything. Second most important, schedule adherence. It's critical for us that we must deliver on time and build reliability in the mind of people. This is critical to create a brand for us, that once we get a forecast, can deliver in time. Starting with manufacturing till the customer gets the vehicle and tractor. Third one, predictability. This is very critical for us, because can we predict the future is coming up? Can we predict the dispatches? And can we eliminate the surprise element, which comes quite often? Surprise element of time and cost included. So can we go for long-term contract, even solution we talked about, so that we have a clear transparency with our partners, and we eliminate the uncertainty built in our dispatches, which was quite often. We should have, I mean, those who are dealing with exports, we know about that. India is not a great country for exports. Many vessels come to India on Ro-Ro vessels typically once in a month, let's say even Mumbai port. There's no weekly dispatches. So, and all the Ro-Ro vessels come on the end of the month, because all of us will like to maximize our dispatches during that time, all right? And if we miss it, rainy season, monsoon season, some priority to someone, and we'll miss it. Can we take a call, we'll not miss any vessel? And all these things must lead to market share. That's critical for us, how we judge it in business, or make a business case viable. So we looked at 4 or 5 verticals. A, improve predictability. How we'll do that thing? Focus on forecasting. This is the result, which typically used to be 75-80%. We're targeting 85 plus 90%, even aberration 86%, but 95% is a norm for us. Sorry. Other is cost leadership. Can you look end-to-end cost, entire supply chain, look at all the cost drivers, create a dashboard, reduce system cost as percentage of revenue, and get metrics. And I can proudly say that our system cost may be much lower than the industry average. Other is cash management. As you know, cash is critical for any industry. My accountant says, my account function head, CFO, profit. Profit is important, but cash is the blood which makes the thing well oiled, you know everyone. Zero discrepancy documentation, no overdues, and this is the result we have. The benchmark earlier was 80%, we're talking 98% plus. Other one is PDI, some session talked about it. It's a simple chart. Where to detect it, where to repair it. If you do it customer end, it's 10 times the marketplace. So we worked with the partner, effectively implement for a sector for the PDI, results are very good. And then all has to be IT enabled. No manual intervention. And one point we told our team members was that there is a relationship with all 3 parameters. We can't focus on one, because all 3 lead to a performance. Therefore, we need to target together and see all levers are pulled in an optimal way to give a desired outcome of performance. And then, this is a spider chart which all of you are aware of. Systems cost saving, freight cost saving, mitigate all the risk, improve cash flows. Like any other critical thing could be business case viability or market share, schedule adherence. This is the output. The result achieved was growth in volumes, export of vehicle tractors, cost reduction, both freight cost, system cost, improvement in collection efficiency, working capital improved, and process improvement and customer delight. Then I told my team member in a more philosophical way, uncertainty is going to live there. It has to be there. We can't eliminate uncertainties and challenges, but we have to find a way out how to create value out of it. That's the question. The workplace, we still have the same environment, but slightly more calibrated, measured, more happy place. This small presentation I have from my side. Couple of things on this. Entire thing worked along with our partner stakeholders in a true transparent way. We worked with a couple of MNCs, as working shipping companies and other agencies, sat across the table, totally transparent in a transaction and vision and plan, no take or pay, clearly telling the customer angle, work together on various parameters to eliminate the inefficiencies and wastages, and the results were great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then again, another interesting presentation, looking at it from a slightly different angle on the global side. Again, you know, how the workplace has changed. I like that, you know, acronym VUCA, V-U-C-C-A. As you can imagine, I was trying to find different ways that we can use those same letters. I never really came up with anything except for if you're working with vehicles, which is what most of us do, then I think another one could be vehicles usually cause cardiac arrests. So maybe that's something that we have to be careful of. The next presentation, again looking from a slightly different angle, I'd like to introduce to the podium Mohammed Shahid, the Divisional Manager of Supply Chain Management and Logistics for Daimler India Commercial.
So good afternoon. Sweat on the forehead. Okay, even I have that, but altogether for a different reason. Okay, what a panel and what great presentations from all of them. Okay, it's really an opportunity for me to be sharing the dais with them and presenting here. So thanks a lot, Louis. In fact, I've been here almost in all the sessions, in all the years, you know, before this, and it is my first chance to be here as a presenter. And all the while I have known automotive logistics as a platform for networking, you know. But today I had one of the incident, you know, which has taken it to the next level altogether, networking as to a next level. Okay, I have got one of the colleagues, Mr. Hariharan, you know, from DHL. I know him by face. He stays in the same society as mine. So we see each other in the morning and we smile at each other, you know. So I go out with my kid, and he comes in the evening, you know, from the office, and we smile at each other. And today for the first time we met here, and then we got introduced, you know, saying that, okay, I am so and so and you are so and so. So automotive logistics, this is what you are doing for us. Okay, so thanks a lot, Louis. We have not thanked you enough. Okay, thank you very much. Being the first timer, I want to go the traditional way. Okay, let me give a short introduction of the company itself. Daimler, okay, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles is a part of Daimler Group, which is more than 125 years old. We have got 5 business verticals: MB, Mercedes-Benz cars, trucks, vans, buses, and financial services. And we are the world's largest truck making company, known for the superior value for our customers. And we have different brands in various parts of the world, depending on the market requirements and the market customizations. In India, we are known by the brand of Bharat-Benz. In fact, the connection with India with Daimler has been very, very old. The very first truck, which was made in 1954, was a Benz truck made by Bharat-Benz, Benz along with Tata Motors. And thereafter we had the cars coming to India in 1990, and in 2012 a full-fledged truck plant has been inaugurated, which is based in Chennai. Few glimpses of the plant. So we are located in Oragadam, a plant of around 400 acres with an investment of more than 4,000 crores, and we have got products right from 9 tons to 49 tons, and with more than 3,000 people on board. The topic that I have taken is a little bit different. Okay, I'll talk about implementing efficiency in logistic processes from a greenfield point of view. Okay, since we are just started, I would like to share upon the experiences of how we have approached of building efficiency in a plant like ours. Okay. I think the starting point for us was same as it was for everybody else. We all want to avoid handling. Okay, handling is a waste that is known to everybody. We have gone one level more just to understand, the handling, not only handling but even touching of the parts and even avoiding all the stages which are there in the supply chain. As we can see here, right from the supplier, then you got the warehouse, the multiple touch points of unpackaging, repackaging, and so on till the assembly. We had taken this as a target that we should avoid multiple handling as far as possible. So the very first point, where do we start this? Okay, being a new plant, I think the idea was to start it from the beginning itself, and this can come only from a logistics friendly plant. Okay, the picture here on the left side shows the concept of the plant. Okay, this is how we started our plant. It's an integrated assembly plant, and what we have planned is that all along the assembly line, okay, we have planned docks. Okay, so this side, and at the bottom there are a lot of docks. And all these docks, they lead to the point of consumption. So in all, 70% of the volume, of the parts which are required for the truck plant will directly go to the line. In fact, it travels less than 30 meters. This could be a good example of building in efficiency in the design itself. Okay, whereas 30% of the parts which come from, let's say, long distance suppliers, they still have to be received in a traditional way and then fed to the line. What more? Okay. It was important that we have to put the countermeasures early in the implementation, so that our suppliers are also on board, in implementing our objectives. So if we have to talk of eliminating handling, we have to talk about our packaging philosophy, our transportation philosophy, and thereby we have to go ahead with the suppliers and work with them on the concept of creating awareness. So we have the packaging manual which details as to how do we go ahead for optimized packaging planning. Then the market standards for this for the packaging itself. Okay, so instead of going for the market standards, we had to also define our own standards. Okay, and sharing it in a detailed fashion to the suppliers. On the ideas as to who will invest and how do we amortize the cost of these packagings, there are various alternatives which are worked out, and these were shared with the suppliers. And one very important point was, okay, in case we are going with returnable packaging, how do we take care of return logistics? Okay, this was also one of the part of the planning that we had, since we went with our own 3PL network. So we had reverse logistics also planned as part of the base planning. So however simplified the word looks, the standardization of handling processes, I think the word is used by everybody. Okay, but the power of standardization is something that I would like to demonstrate here. Okay, so the 4 stages of the supply chain, that is transportation, receiving, storage, and line feeding, how we have taken this standardization and what is the benefit that we are getting. So for transportation, for all the suppliers, first of all, we have got standard truck sizes. Okay, we have got 2 truck sizes depending on whether they are milk runs or the long haulages, and then there are 5 sizes of packaging containers. Okay, and these fit exactly into these trucks. And 80% of our parts are already in returnable packaging. Okay, so this starting point, is yielding us the efficiency in transportation. Then, if these are the standards which are already followed, okay, the receiving at our plant also is standardized. Okay, this is done not by different methods, but there are standard handling methods. So you will have either a forklift or a low cost lift, but you will not have a manual intervention as far as the unloading is concerned. And then the storage, if we have got the standards of the containers, we can also store them in the way that we want with the highest efficiency of stacking. Then the line feeding, which is one of the key process for optimization. There is a matching cart, okay, which is shown in the bottom tugger train. So every container that comes has got a matching cart, and these carts are connected together by quick connectors, okay, and then they are connected to the tugger trains, and all the line feedings, they happen through a tugger train route. Okay, this is more like a fixed bus route which goes to the line, and the standard steps of putting the containers on the carts and then connecting and then moving to the line is something that happens throughout the day. Okay, and you also have a different method of feeding for the direct online parts, which is shown at the top. So what is the benefit that we are getting with this? Of course, this is the key of the entire planning. The benefit is that you have a better transport efficiency. Okay, you have a better handling efficiency, storage efficiency, and in the end, you also have got, let's say, the flexibility of the manpower, because you don't require then people to know different processes at different part of the supply chain. Now, this is not all. If we have to have efficiency in the supply chain, we also need to plan it from the beginning. And the supplier landscape is something which decides whether you will be efficient in terms of your cost or not. Okay. So the pie chart on the left hand side shows that we have got more than 77% of the parts coming from Chennai and south, which is less than 300 kilometers. And this gives us a great opportunity. I mean, this itself has given us a good start. Now, this start has been complemented subsequently by putting a 3PL network. Okay, and this 3PL network works with the concept of hub and spoke model. So we have got a cross dock in north, we have got a cross dock in west, and a cross dock in south region, which is in Bangalore. And from these three cross docks, we consolidate the loads and bring it on let's say a frequency which is good for the long haulage. And this is something that has been implemented from the beginning. And this actually brings gives us the advantage of bringing the overall inventory and the cost of transportation from beginning itself. Now, what I've shown you is part of the greenfield planning, okay? But this is not all. What I'm showing you is actually the end-to-end landscape of how do we want to optimize and how we are working on this. We always go from the assembly line backward to the line, okay? So the approach is going line back. So the line itself, in today's time, we all know that the line demands high variability and high flexibility for the models, and there are various methods of delivering the parts to the line. So there could be a top-up method, there could be a sequencing, kitting, set delivery, and these are all done in a supermarket or a kitting zone, okay, which comes from a warehouse, which is then connected by the transportation and supplier. So our approach is that we start from the line, okay. The first thing is that we go back and optimize the kitting and line supply efficiency. Then whatever the waste that comes back, okay, we have to work on optimizing the handling steps, and then we work on reducing the warehousing itself, which can be done by just-in-time, just-in-sequence deliveries. Okay, then the supply chain control, which comes from the synchronized inbound network, and the information transparency, and then getting the suppliers also on board, in terms of having them connected through the web portal. Have a stable forecast to them so that they can plan their raw material and production properly, is something that we are doing. Okay, so this is the entire landscape that we are looking at in terms of optimization. Okay, now this is where we are. Okay, and I think we still have got a long way to go, and the next level of efficiencies can only be brought up, if you look at the challenges at the next level. Okay, so some of the challenges that I have listed here, this is for all the people out here. Okay, and I think we will have to work towards this. So I think this is already pointed out. The first one, to have a common packaging footprint, so that we don't have to think about whether the truck size will be different for company X, company Y, company Z, but we can use all the sizes interchangeably, and we can also achieve same kind of efficiency, whether it's company A or B or C, and this can be an industry standard altogether. Second is I think already the point, okay, this is something that we are thinking as a futuristic concept, but warehouse on wheels, which is very, very common in the other countries, especially Europe and all, is today not a reality in India, okay, because of various regulations. Today, a prime mover and the truck trailer, okay, these two are registered together, and it's not possible for you to come bring the trailer in the plant, and then the prime mover goes back and brings another one. So the concept of warehouse on wheels is something that could actually come in and take the just-in-time and just-in-sequence delivery to the next level. Okay, we have to, as the industry service providers, we have to work on also going to the next level as far as this is concerned. We have discussed about the highways. Okay, we have a great amount of development and there is a high sophistication that has come now. However, we still have got various obstructions like the tolls and checkposts. For example, from Chennai to from Delhi to Chennai, whenever our trucks come, there are more than 50 points of tolls and checkpoints, which the truck has to pass through. And the current per day travel which the truck is able to do is, let's say, 450 kilometers in a day. Okay, but there is a potential to go up to 600 to 650 per day if you are able to somehow get rid of this, or at least unify this in a way that that it doesn't become obstruction so many times on the entire travel. The fourth point which is proposed by me, of course, this is a little bit mean from my side. Okay, we are a commercial vehicle manufacturer, and we feel, not on my behalf and on the behalf of the entire industry, there is also a time for the service providers that we have to upgrade our fleets. Okay, it is very, very clear that the upgraded fleets, they have got a better total cost of ownership. They are more efficient, and they also will result in faster turnaround time, and thereby efficiency will also be brought into the system. Okay. So this was a small presentation from me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, again for another great presentation. Showed us the complexities again of a supply chain, reminded us that logistics and the move towards supply chain is very much more than about transportation. It is a complex, and there's so many areas involved in logistics nowadays. We've changed the name from logistics to supply chain, but it's basically the same companies just trying to become more forward thinking, more innovative, and changing the complexity has forced us to look at different issues in the supply chain. And also, a lot of the things that came through in all the presentations led us back to the first presentation and the importance of harmonization. So now it's your turn to question the audience. We're a little bit over time, but I think it's very important to give you the opportunities to ask this very important panel some questions, to make some comments. Particularly, I'd love it if you disagree with them, just to have a bit of fun. But otherwise, I'll hand it over to you. If anyone's got any questions or comments, if you can raise your hand and let me guess, Mark.
No, I promise. No adverts here. Mark Morgan, Unicar Group. Just a very quick point to the first speaker, Mr. Pathak. And again, please excuse me if you already know this, but there are 3 organizations who are already promoting harmonization, in particular standards, ECG in Europe, AIAG in North America, and ODET as well, both on inbound and outbound. A lot of work has gone on. I was part of starting one of those processes about 6-7 years ago. And it'd be great, and I don't know again whether they have involved you, but certainly the original intention was to involve China and India as being a huge growth opportunity. And again, my belief has always been that in the end of the day, we're still trying to get the one car to the right location, undamaged, on time. And that should be the same regardless of costs or location or what have you. So I think the harmonization project, again, if you're not part of it, then certainly India should be part of this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I know. But only thing, like in India, we yet to start. See, as an individual companies, we all have been working on optimizing the supply chain by various ways and means, where harmonization, internal harmonization, we have done in a lot of places. Like I just give example of Tata or Fiat, what we are doing through the joint industrial joint venture. But how can we do across the industry? How can we do it across the spectrum of the stakeholders of the industry? I think that's the broader point which I wanted to bring in.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Question from the young gentleman at the back.
Hi, my name is Bill Pollock, Convertible Trailer Manufacturing. I appreciate the presentations there by both Amlan and the gentleman from Maruti regarding the issues of efficiency, of course, in your auto carrier assets, whether they're road, rail, or ocean. But even if you apply all of your principles and logic to optimizing your logistics today as they are with the existing assets the way they are designed today, you will only achieve perhaps 60% at best efficiency with existing auto carrier assets. Has any consideration been given to somehow making those assets more versatile to haul other products, say combine inbound and outbound logistics, hauling other products, coming home? Those carriers are all coming home empty. There's nobody in this room that can say otherwise. I'm just wondering if you guys have taken any consideration in that respect.
Is the question specific to outbound logistics, or sorry, finished vehicle logistics, or also component?
I think finished vehicle logistics and inbound logistics, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Look, I think let's all honestly agree, in this country we have a problem. It's an industry-wide problem on logistics of finished vehicle. We have for too long gone wrong. For too long we have gone out of control, using all sorts of vehicle length, illegal and all. So there is no point we hiding and waiting for the inevitability. So yes, but I think the time has come, and after listening to the secretary today, looks it's much closer. The reality or the moment of truth is much closer. Perhaps in 2015, once the auto rules that they were talking about, transportation rules, perhaps will be reality. I think the industry has to go through a major shakeover. Me personally, any chance that I get to talk to all the global logistics players of the likes of the NYKs and the WWLs and all, I keep telling them and urging them to come more into this field, into this industry in India as much as they can, bring their global expertise, global designs. Every time I go to US and Europe, and I'm wowed by the design and the perfection of the finished vehicle trucks and trailers and all. I always wonder how when it will ever come to India. So I don't have any answer. I don't think collectively to answer it, no, we haven't thought about it. We as an industry, we haven't thought about it, frankly speaking, and we all are in it all together. But we cannot achieve tomorrow's volume if we don't act today. And I think the government is kind of almost now pushing us towards that moment of truth.
Just to add to this, some baby steps have been taken. So this is really a very important concern for each one of us. But I would like to share here that definitely for the outbound and for the finished goods inventory movement, some level of improvement has already happened now. For example, when we moved from NMG to the flexi deck system, definitely the level of with the level of scale and the output that is being handled has improved, but not to the satisfaction level that we are looking at. And but we expect that with improved designs, with a lot of collaborations, and where we are working upon with various other experts in the logistics area, some of them are sitting in this room, we expect that in the time to come, definitely a lot of improvement is going to come this area.
Thank you. Any other questions? A question on the over there.
Good evening. This is GP Chadha from Maruti Suzuki, and my question is to Mr. Bose. Sorry. I heard you moving from directly handling the carriers, which means Ford company directly having the contract with the transporters, to a LLP service provider. Am I correct in that?
No, we have a contract with the 3PL, which is a one single company, and they in turn have fleets, or they take fleets on lease from the market. So we have only one purchase order with one 3PL.
Okay. But there was some change which you were mentioning, because it was not very clear about how it moved. You said earlier you were dealing with the carriers, and now you are dealing with LLP, who in turn is dealing with the carrier providers.
Okay.
Okay. If that is correct, then my question is, you also mentioned that there has been reduction in the cost. So if it is LLP and there is another channel which has been added, and if there is a reduction in cost, is the end carrier who is getting even a little lesser margin, or how it has happened?
Yeah. So the model, the 3PL model that we had is that one, it was all Ex Works, right? So our purchasing contract with all the production suppliers is just the material cost. The logistics cost is not part of the piece price, because we have the responsibility of going and picking up the material when we want, how much we want. So it's Ex Works contract. And the entire contract of picking up that, planning, routing, and planning the entire fleet and picking up material, we have given this contract to one service provider, which we call as 3PL. They in turn have their own fleets and various other leased fleets from the market. That's the model we have been working. Because in this model, why we are having problem in this model is that because it's a clash of interest, because they are acting as a pseudo consultant to us, but having their own fleet, having their own carriers. So they have not been as effective in driving the cost down or eliminating the waste. LLP comes as a completely an entity who are not at all into this fleet business at all. They are just an independent, neutral entity whose only focus is to look into the entire logistics end-to-end process and see how they can eliminate waste from the system. And to answer your question on how how the LLP cost comes in, LLP is actually cost neutral to us, meaning the contract that we have signed with LLP presumes that they will be bringing X percentage of efficiency year over year. So their management fee is neutral to us. So it's self-sustaining in that sense.
Any more questions? Okay. Well, it might surprise you by looking at me, but I actually enjoy my food. So maybe it's time to adjourn and go to the evening dinner. But I'd like to thank the panel for once again some great presentations and thoughts. Thank you. The dinner is at the Westin Hotel. The co-chairs will be at the front of the hotel. For those of you who are driving there, on the registration desk there's some maps and things. So I hope you'll join us there to continue the discussions and the networking. And if you join us for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the $1 trillion opportunity. So thank you.